Hey everyone, just want to remind you again about our friends over at Mohawk Honda before we get into this episode of The Space Between Your Ears. I've been talking for the last month or two about trading in and everything that's going on. 2022s are going to be coming out pretty soon. So, dealerships are going to be basically doing whatever wheeling and dealing and scheming and conniving they can do to get older cars off their lots to make room for these 2022s are going to be coming out. Well, you're not got to deal with any scheming or shystering when it comes to Mohawk Honda. They're going to give you the right deal that fits your needs and your values. And they not only will they give you top dollar for your trade-in, but they have a ton of inventory. In fact, the biggest inventory to choose from in the capital region area of upstate New York, which means you could choose the vehicle that's right for you, not just the one that's going to be a nice little penny in the pocket for the other dealers. Don't feel pressure into buying something from another dealer just because it's the best they can do. Go to Mohawk Honda and get the vehicle you deserve from their vast selection of certified pre-owned vehicles, guaranteed to fit your needs and your lifestyle, not the values of those other dealers. So don't forget, selection is king this summer over at Mohawk Honda, and no one has more to choose from than Mohawk Honda. Freeman's Bridge Road in Scotia, Glenville, here in the upstate New York area where we're based, where they always go out of their way to please you. And hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 12 of The Space Between Your Ears. I'm Brian Cady, hanging. And if you notice a little difference in the way I sound, um, just pardon me because I'm on the back end of some weird head cold that just does not want to go away. Um, it was good timing too because I literally finished my podcast for last week, uh, and then within like an hour after my last podcast, after I finished doing it, is when all the symptoms started kicking in. So good timing. So if you catch me with any weird pause or extended pause, I should say, it's maybe because I'm muting my mic to cough, so it's not in your ear, and I'm trying to be polite. So that's what it is. But I do have the hot tea right here, a little sippy sip there, and hopefully that'll keep everything at base. We don't have to worry about any coughing action. But anyways, the Space Between Your Ears is presented by Godzilla Media and sponsored by, like I mentioned, our friends at Mohawk Honda, but also brought to you by our friends over at Johnstone Supply, 2600 6th Avenue in Troy. Go check them out, especially, as we're recording this, we're in the beginnings of a mini heat wave here in the Capital District in upstate New York, where the temps are going to be, mid 80s, high 80s, but the real feel is going to be around 100 or so because of the humidity. And, even though we're supposed to get intermittent showers over the next few days, we're still going to feel that humidity the entire time. So if you're having any HVAC issues, give these guys a call ASAP. The phone number is 518-272-5922. They'll take care of all your needs, whether you're looking for a Fujitsu model or Westinghouse, or if you know that your AC is fine, but you just need a part fix, like a contactor or a capacitor, give them a call. They got all kinds of great models of ACs, as well as all the parts in stock to get you up and running so you aren't sweating like crazy and dealing with indoor temps of 80, 90 degrees and make you feel like, hey, why don't I just sit outside and bake if I'm baking inside my own apartment or house? Again, that's Johnstone Supply, 2600 6th Avenue in Troy. Their phone number again, 518-272-5922. That being said, we'll do a little sippy sip here. And oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. I don't know how y'all like your tea, but when it comes to hot tea, I'm indifferent about the putting milk in it. That is what it is. Um, I'm kind of indifferent about the milk. Like, it's okay. I can't taste a huge difference, but I'm definitely a guy that likes sugar or honey in my tea. Like, I'm not a straight tea kind of guy. I can't do it. Um, maybe it's just because I'm so used to iced tea, and I know that they put sugar in iced tea. At least the iced tea I like to drink, they put sugar in it, so maybe that has something to do with it. I like having that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to deep dive on hot tea that we don't really need. But anyways, oh, and the lemon too. Eh, take it or leave it on the hot tea. Iced tea, okay. Hot tea, I could take or leave the lemon. Any hooser. So today's episode is going to start with a little insight on me quickly to set up the rest of the episode. And that whole rest of the episode is basically going to have me publicly ripping open an old wound within my family from a chain of events that happened, and already spoke to the parties that were involved. They all are cool with this being discussed. So we're going to go down there in that avenue in a moment. But just a quick little insight. When it comes to friendships that I had growing up, you know, I'm a nice guy. I naturally want to get along with everyone. But as I saw myself getting older, especially while I was at CBA in an all-guy school, when you're at CBA, all you really hear about, obviously, is a guy's perspective or guy's stories. So a lot of the times, anytime I would hear stories about parties or relationships, I'm always hearing the disgusting, misogynistic, piggish, male version of what's happened. Which, coming out of a household where I came from a split family. My parents divorced when I was 6, 7 years old. So the household I lived in was with my mother, and for a good chunk of the formative years of my life as a grade school kid, and yeah, we could include high school because the one brother I lived with growing up, he was born when I was 14, so he really didn't have any involvement in this. But I basically grew up with my mother and my one live-in sister. So I always grew up with it being hammered in my head from my mother as well as my grandmother on my mother's side to respect women, treat them properly, so on and so forth. So I was basically taught to treat women like queens and princesses and respect them. So growing up, and as I got older into my high school years, and then eventually off into my 20s, and this is something that I recognize today. For whatever reason, I get along better with women than I do with men. Doesn't mean I can't work with men. Like, I'm cool with dudes. But if you present me, well, I'll give you an example. If you present me with random strangers, I'm not gonna cast judgment either way. As I start hearing conversations, that's when I might be like, okay, because I cast judgment a little quicker on guys based on the conversations I hear them having, because I'm a fan of like-minded dudes when it comes to the way to treat women. I don't know why. That's just how that's just how my brain is wired. So, but even still to this day, I just naturally am friendly with women. I'm not flirting with them. I'm not trying to get in their pants. For whatever reason, I just naturally am friendlier and more approachable and tend to be friends with quicker with women than men. I can't make sense of it. It just is what it is. And it's something that was an issue in my prior long-term relationship before I got married. And it was even an issue early on in my current relationship with my wife, which, as I need to silence my phone, just realized that, which, I expected. And, she's gotten preacher with it. And she's actually the flip-flop of me. She gets along better with guys because she's essentially a tomboy. I mean, she's like me, where she gets along with everyone. But as far as making friends and having things I like to discuss, she naturally gravitates towards guys more than girls. So it's very weird. Um, any hooser. So that kind of gives you a little insight on me as a human being and as a man when I tell you what's going to be addressed the rest of the show. And it's essentially the misogyny of men who need to always have that sense of power and command over women. And obviously this is triggered by unless you've been living under a rock, you know the news about New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, now soon to be former governor, as he's stepping away, and Kathy Hochul is going to become the first female governor in New York State history as the 57th governor of the state. But Andrew Cuomo was sexually inappropriate towards numerous women during his time in power within the state government. And an investigation was launched, and the findings came out recently, and now Cuomo's essentially been strong-armed into stepping down. And essentially he's been strong-armed into doing the right thing. So the reason that triggered me into thinking about what to do with this episode today is because there has been a past experience within my family regarding this issue. Cheers, everyone. Give me a sec. So we need to go back in time. If my math is correct, we're talking early 2014, I believe. No, 2013, excuse me. Early 2013, I believe, is the time. I could be wrong on the year, but whatever. So, not including the siblings I have acquired through marriage to my current wife, my only wife. I don't know why I said current wife, but aside from the siblings I've gained through marriage, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. This episode focuses on the 2 sisters. So my older sister got married for the first time at a young age. I want to say, I don't remember the exact date they got married. I'm going to say it was around when she was 21, something like that. And at one point, her husband was still active in a certain part of the army. Don't remember what part. Don't know why he eventually got stationed in San Diego, but that's what happened. They moved to San Diego for a little while. And that was when issues started. In that he cheated on my sister multiple times while they were living in San Diego. And on numerous occasions, he would invite another female over with him and my sister and purposely try to get them drunk enough to engage in 3-ways. Now, to her knowledge, and I discussed this with her to get facts straight. To her knowledge, none of those trends carried over to when they moved back to New York. Um, but here's the scenario that got presented. So my older sister and her husband moved back to New York from San Diego. Originally living under my house with our mother until they found a place in Guilderland. So they found a place in Guilderland, whatever, and eventually, you know, things were settled and everything, and to the point where, and there was a good relationship there with all parties involved, to the point where my older sister invited my younger sister to spend a night at their place. And things seem to be going fine. And at the time, my younger sister was 14, and had never experienced any inference of what was going to happen that night. Doesn't recall any inappropriate conversations up to that point. But at the same time, as I reviewed the events of this night with her, it's possible there could have been inappropriate comments or conversations at some point, but she doesn't recall them because, as she put it, she wasn't mentally developed to pick up on cues of that sort in conversation. But any hooser. So they're hanging out, having fun, the three of them in the apartment. I know my older sister and her husband had a drink or two. But eventually there's some play fighting between the three of them. And my sister eventually just kind of stopped with it. But her husband was continuing to the play fighting and the tickling of my younger sister. To which my older sister was uncomfortable and telling him to stop, and he eventually stopped, just not quick enough to the point where it made my older sister feel comfortable with it, if that makes sense. So then things settle down and the night carries on and things are done. So then we get to lights out, essentially. And my older sister was already asleep at this point in the bedroom. My younger sister was sleeping. I don't know if it was a day bed or a guest bed. I think it was just like a guest bed. I don't remember the exact layout of the apartment. So I can't remember if they had an actual guest bedroom, like a totally separate room, or if it was just a bed that was set up in the confines of like the living area. But anywho, there was a separate sleeping quarters, a separate sleeping bed. It was a separate bed. And my younger sister was just laying there on her phone, when she heard, a door close behind her. And she was kind of weirded out by it. Wasn't sure if she was hearing it right or whatever. So she immediately turned the screen off on her phone and put it down and was trying to pretend like she was asleep. So, so the door opened slowly. My younger sister put her phone down to pretend she was sleeping. The door closes, and my older sister's husband proceeded to slowly move towards the bed. And he took off his shirt, covered the lamp that was next to the bed, and then turned the lamp on. Just so there wasn't, the light wasn't bright enough to wake up my sister, but was still enough for him to see what he was doing. So my younger sister in the bed just kind of stirred and moved around, which was enough for him to, as she put it, army crawl to under the bed, thinking he wouldn't be seen or heard. So then she turns over on the bed, still fully aware of what's going on, and pretends to be asleep, laying on her side now, with her back to the exposed side of the bed where he was accessing from. So at that point, he, once he noticed that, he got back up and started groping my sister and got into the bed with her and unbuttoned her clothing because she hadn't changed into nightwear for some reason. She was still in regular clothes. I don't know why. She couldn't explain why, so it's whatever. But he was unbuttoning her clothes and attempting to go further by touching her more inappropriately. At that point, my sister stirs again and woke up, and he army crawled, as she put it, back to his bedroom with my older sister. And that was it. She then noticed, my younger sister noticed the shirt over the lamp and took a picture of it, because when she eventually came out about it, she wanted to make sure she had extra evidence so people didn't think she was crazy. So the following day, so the following morning, everything is kept normal. My younger sister doesn't say anything, just want to get out of there, basically. And excuse me for a second. Cheers. And she gets picked up by her mother, and immediately, because it's her daughter, she could tell something was wrong, and tried getting out of her. Eventually, it came out, and so, meanwhile, as that's going on back at the apartment, my older sister notices notices a couple things out of sorts, but nothing enough to cause actual questioning of the husband, including the t-shirt still being over the lamp. Thought it was weird, but not enough to raise question again. So switching back over to my younger sister, so she divulges everything to her mother, and this is where I come in. So I'm on the way home from a basketball game, and by this point it was about 1:30 in the afternoon, and I get a call, and it's my younger sister's mother, and she's like, "Hey, I can't discuss with you what's going on, but something's up. Can you please come over to the house?" I said, "Yeah, of course." So I made my way over to the house, and I knew it was something serious, because as soon as I got in, I could tell that her and my father were both really out of sorts. So the situation was explained to me. And the first thing that had to be done was making sure my father didn't snap and go over to the apartment and do something that would cause police involvement. Let's just put it that way. Because the temperaments that come from my father's side of the family are prone to violent behaviors. I'll just put it that way. So the first mission was to get my father calmed enough, not necessarily calm all the way down, but bring his anger down a few notches to the point where he no longer felt like causing bodily harm to my older sister's husband. So I took a little discussion, a little intervention of sorts in a way. And then it was requested that, just because of the compounding of what had happened the past in that relationship in San Diego, and now this, just, there's no moving forward from this. So it was requested that I go get my older sister, somehow get her away from her husband, explain what happened, and tell her, look, you need to get out. Like, this is it. Like, no more of this shit. No more bullshit with this dude. You're done. This marriage is over. So I ended up texting my older sister. And apparently she was getting ready to leave her apartment anyways, because she was going to bring laundry over to our mother's house, which was convenient as hell. Sorry about that. So I was like, hey, I'm in the neighborhood. I need to talk to you, though. Can we meet up wherever? And we ended up figuring out a parking lot that's a parking lot for a little strip plaza that's near her place. That was within a short driving distance of the house I was at, of my dad's house. So we meet there. She gets out of her car and gets into the passenger seat of mine. And I don't remember how I phrased it, but I was like, I essentially was like, I need you to just listen and let me tell you everything, and then we'll go from there. Um, I I didn't know how she was going to take it, but she sat, she listened, and there was no initial reaction, which kind of freaked me out. No initial vocal reaction. So I explained step by step what I knew in as far as the details of what had happened. Now I didn't know every blow by blow detail like I've explained it to you here, but I knew the gist and basically eventually said, like, this is it. The first reaction I got out of my older sister, she was in one motion starting to bawl her eyes out and then trying to storm out of my car and get into her vehicle because she wanted to cause bodily harm to her husband, which is not a good idea because, to give you mental perspective, my older sister's all of 5 foot and 100 pounds. This guy she's married to is military trained and like a foot taller than her. And if I had to guess, probably double her weight easily. So not really a good idea to try doing that. So I don't know. This is one of the fastest things I've ever done in my life. I get out, grab her, hold her for a second in like a bear hug kind of thing, and somehow convince her to get back in my car to finish her cry fest and calm down, which she did. So once she gathered herself enough to stop bawling her eyes out and think more clearly, I was like, here's what's going to happen. You go get in your car. I'll follow you to your apartment. Grab the laundry you're going to do. Grab some extra belongings. Just grab your shit. Say you're leaving if you want, and then come back out. And then I'll leave once I see you're safe, back in your vehicle and leaving. So we did that. But I felt like it was a little too long though. So I eventually decided, calm and without any weaponry in hand, I got out of my vehicle because I parked. So my older sister pulled in right in front of the apartment, essentially. I parked up. All right, so basically, the way I remember it vaguely, there was an entrance, like a drive-in entrance to the parking lot. If you went to the right and down a couple doors, it was their apartment. I went left and basically pulled in the first available spot there. So that's where I was in perspective to where the door to the apartment was. But I feel like it was going a little too long. So I went to the door and I knocked on it and didn't even realize it was still jarred open. So I pushed the door open, and this misogynistic, womanizing son of a bitch is just chilling on the couch in the living room, going through his cell phone like it's just another day in the neighborhood. Didn't have a word to say to me, just chilling without a care in the world. Come to find out that she did say something brief to him, which fucking amazes me even more now because even then he was still unwavered by the entire thing. Um, and then at that point, we as a family, excuse me, didn't get to mute the mic quick enough on that one. We as a family eventually got all her belongings out of the apartment. She moved back in with my mother and one of my brothers and I in Albany, and divorce papers, all the legal mumbo jumbo to change her name back to her maiden name, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, there's been continuous therapy for years for not just this but other issues, for both of my sisters, and that's the story of that. So yeah, that's the story. I literally got refreshed with this knowledge of all the details within 24 hours of recording this. So if I got anything wrong, it's because I typed something incorrectly while having those conversations yesterday with my two sisters. I'm happy to report that there's happy endings to this. My older sister has since remarried, just had her first child, a daughter named Chelsea, earlier this year. She's the spitting image of her mother, and no one can tell me otherwise. My younger sister has since graduated from Northeastern. She's doing continued graduate work out in Keene, New Hampshire, has moved out there recently. She's working in Boston as well, doing some work there. And she's working towards a doctorate. Yeah. And the intriguing part, she's huge into like crystals and Reiki and I don't think they're exactly tarot cards, but they're kind of sort of tarot cards. And she's just huge into psychology, and she wants to be a therapist, and God bless her. It's I'm going to come to the closing of my show by saying something specific about one of my siblings. As I mentioned earlier in the show, in total, not including those acquired through marriage, I have 4 siblings, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I'm the eldest of the 5. I love all 4 of them like crazy for various different reasons. My youngest brother is a complete nerd, which taps into the nerd side of me. Um, my other brother is the spitting image of our father. So when I'm having a moment where I want to act a little wacky and say some wacky shit, he's right there to be the tag team partner on that one. My oldest sister and we grew up together. We experienced a lot of the same experiences growing up, as far as the kind of household we lived in, um, the experiences of our parents being divorced. So like, there's a kindred there's a kindred bond between us that's special. But let me tell you something. Um, my youngest sister, younger sister. There's only two of them, younger, older and younger. Um, she, um, and if you ask her mother, she'll tell you it's definitely from her father's genes. But I don't think she gives herself enough credit in this regard. My younger sister is so has such a strong facade. Um, and has such amazing strength from the inside out that I stand in awe of it sometimes. And I'm not just saying that from the perspective of the story I told. I mean, even if I like if I told you the schedule she kept between school, work, and traveling back and forth between the Albany Gilderland area and the Boston area over the last few years, and now it's Albany to Keene, New Hampshire, Keene to Boston, Boston to Keene, Keene to Albany, Boston to Albany. If I explain to you the schedule she has kept and the amount of crazy ass work she's had to do to work towards what she's trying to achieve academically, you'd say she's out of her fucking mind. And that might even be on the light side of your reaction. Um, she is so she is so strong in that regard, and has such a passion and drive. When she has her mindset on something, it's all or nothing. Like there's no in between. There's no half-assing anything with her. Um, and she is such an amazing inspiration, which is why I'm so glad she's trying to get into the field she's getting into, because the people she will encounter and help overcome problems with, they're going to come out of working with her 100 times better as human beings than they were going in. Like I know that already. Um, and she now has a significant other that we'll see. I don't know. But everyone, including myself, seems to like the guy. I don't know. I'm not gonna jinx it. I'm not gonna push any buttons. But you never know. Um, but I also know that her schedule is way too crazy to even think about accommodating such an idea of taking on a challenge of planning something like that. I'm not gonna say what you can get what I'm inferring. Um, and if you're a female, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The bitch to plan one of those. So, um, but yeah, like I just had to say that real quick. That all being said, that covers everything. So, yeah, I guess I'll just wrap it up. That was episode 12 of The Space Between Your Ears. I don't know why I'm so awkward at wrapping up shows where I'm not interviewing somebody, but I don't know. I leave things open ended, and it's just like when I get to the end, it's like, okay, here we go. So thank you for, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. If you caught this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you may listen to your podcasts of choice, thank you for listening. Don't forget, if you want to catch me on Twitter, drop a comment, say, hey, great show, hey, whatever, at Brian Cady, BRIANCADY, all is one word. That's the Twitter handle. If you want to send an email with long-form comments about the shows, any interesting topics you want me to discuss on the show or have guests on the show to discuss, if you want to share your mental health story or your mental health struggles, maybe you have a story about an ex that was the same way as my older sister's ex-husband or whatever. It's mine. It's brian.cady at GodzillaMedia.com. Think the monster Godzilla, but drop the D. GodzillaMedia.com. So special thanks again to our presenting sponsors, Mohawk Honda in Scotia Glenville and Johnstone Supply on 6th Avenue in Troy. And yeah, presented by Godzilla Media, I'm Brian Cady. We'll catch you again for the next episode of The Space Between Your Ears. Until then, enjoy your day and live well.